Here's the deal. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare was a 2014 first-person shooter game which marked the 11th major release in the Call of Duty franchise. Coming out at a pivotal time in American video games, Advanced Warfare saw a shift from the series' original historical-based combat, as well as its popular Modern Warfare series, to move the franchise in a near-futuristic setting, where the progression of the latter technology develops in a semi-realistic sci-fi direction. It's also the first Call of Duty game I was actually good at, which is why it's my personal favorite game in the series. Upon its release, Advanced Warfare became the most critically acclaimed game in the series since Modern Warfare 2, correcting what many believe to be the first real dud to the franchise in the previous year's Call of Duty Ghosts. However, after the initial wave of praise died down, the game saw a significant swing in public opinion, especially amongst longtime fans. The following year, Call of Duty released Black Ops 3, another well-received but questionably developed sequel to their popular Black Ops duology, which furthered the technological innovations from Advanced Warfare, and with the eventual release of Infinite Warfare, regarded by many as the definitive worst game in the franchise, where characters literally fight in the vast emptiness of space, the Call of Duty franchise had truly jumped the shark, and many pointed back to Advanced Warfare as the start of things going wrong. Despite this retroactive criticism, Advanced Warfare remains an excellent, if not underrated, installment in the franchise, with a fantastic campaign starring this guy, who doesn't seem to be doing much acting anymore, and a series of well-designed multiplayer maps which regenerated a stagnant franchise mode for a new half-generation of players. Since Advanced Warfare remains my favorite game in the series, I figured it would be the best place to start a new series on this channel, attempting to rank every single Call of Duty multiplayer map. For the sake of easing us into this project, today's video is only going to contain the multiplayer maps available to the public at the immediate release of the game. This means no DLCs, expansion packs, or updated seasonal content released later on in the game's run. Stay tuned, as those maps may be coming in a future installment, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Atlas Gorge for providing me an innumerable amount of sniper kills in my many visits to the facility. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos in this series. Comment below which Call of Duty game you'd like to see ranked next, and let me know which is your favorite map in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Without further ado, Number 13. Horizon. I mean no offense to Halo when I say this, but Horizon feels like a map which would fit far better in the Halo franchise than Call of Duty. A map that feels bland and underdesigned, there really isn't much room for combat beyond its large central chamber, a map feature which will appear a couple more times in this video. At the same time the center of the map is too open, the rest feels too cramped, occupied with soulless buildings, ambush spots, and what feel like open-air hallways to create a map that requires very little strategy to your gameplay, and a lot of sheer luck in encountering any opponents. It really feels like a free-for-all space, especially in the central hangar, which allows a few decent planting spots and one sniping post from the upper control deck. But beyond that, there really isn't much to write home about for this particular map. Number 12. Defender. Moving right on to another central chamber-style map, Defender is also one of a few maps on this list that change with time. Advanced Warfare saw the experimentation with shifting map design. Seen in the Defender map when roughly halfway through any given match, the lower levels of this map flood, forcing you to move to higher ground. Unlike Horizon, Defender's central chamber actually offers several good vantage points from which you can stake a claim to the room for a majority of the match. But like Horizon, the rest of the map leaves a lot to be desired. Set in what is essentially a bunker located below the Golden Gate Bridge, Defender is populated with a few fun tunnels and hiding holes from which you can maneuver your way through and around enemy ranks, a solid design for any good map. But beyond that, sniping posts are virtually non-existent, and anyone caught out in the open has little choice for where to run if you find yourself outside the central web of tunnels. Props to Defender, however. As much as I dislike the aesthetic of the concrete bunker, its shading and graphic design make it feel far more realistic than Horizon. Number 11. Ascend. This map, in addition to the two we just mentioned, all rank fairly tightly together at the bottom of this list. I went back and forth between placing this one first or last out of the three, because just as I mentioned with Defender, I prefer maps to feel a little more lived in, and less clean with their design. However, what sets this map above the other two is its use of height and volume, creating a map that, while still leaving a lot to be desired, feels far less flat and empty than Horizon and Defender. Feeling like something you might find on the human side of the Avatar series, that's the James Cameron Avatar, I mean. Ascend is a deserted space elevator in the middle of the ocean, a slightly less Halo-ish version of a spacebound future. Setting it in midnight rain adds that much more to an otherwise underwhelming atmosphere, but like I mentioned in contrast to Horizon, Ascend allows an intelligent player to literally get the upper hand on opponents by taking advantage of a nice flow of open and confined spaces, creating, most importantly in these bottom 3 installments, a nice pace of gameplay that the other 2 simply don't have, which is ultimately why it falls at the top of this very bottom on our list. Number 10. Detroit. I know there are a lot of players who favor this map, but for me, Detroit is hardly anything to celebrate. Essentially 4 bent hallways which cater the action from one corner of the map to the other, Detroit is an extremely fast map, not allowing any real locations for a sniper to safely slow down the action. Instead, the quick corners of this map favor mines and shotguns, providing a pace that's nearly breakneck for any player trying to accomplish anything greater than back-and-forth KDs. A major step above the 3 below it on this list, however, Detroit is very well designed in terms of its gritty aesthetic. Detroit feels lived and lively, especially if you're familiar with the campaign level from which it comes. Medical trailers, supply carriages, and abandoned vehicles provide plenty of spaces to duck, cover, and ambush in an otherwise open part of the map, but still allow a third dimension to the action in ways that other compact maps like Horizon don't provide. All in all, Detroit is a decent map, but lacks any of the real charm that would put it above any of the remaining maps on our list. Number 9. Comeback. More commonly known as Lagos due to its location and signage within the map, Comeback is another central chamber map which disguises itself as something more akin to Modern Warfare. Due to its grimy Afro-capital aesthetic, parts of this map feel like updated sections of better maps like Favela or even Tulsik Backlot. Where this map sets itself above the bottom 3 is twofold. Its incredible use of sniper posts, which are positioned in a way that doesn't overwhelm the central chamber, and its overall favoring of siege tactics. Unlike Horizon and Defender, Comeback's central chamber is designed in a way that any defensive party can hold their position long enough for a kill streak, but not so firmly that an offensive raid can't overwhelm it if they're lucky enough to enter from the correct corner. Add to that the aforementioned limiting of sniping sightlines, and you've created a map that favors neither the assaulter, the defender, or the posted guard, but instead provides an atmosphere that caters to any one of them based on the flow of the match. Why then is Comeback so low on this list? I think it all comes down to memorability. The gameplay is fun, but there's nothing about this map that really stands out, in either its blueprint, its aesthetic, or even its name. There are unlikely to be memorable kills in this map, and it's unlikely to rank very high on anyone's favorite list. Sure, the gameplay is fun, but the overall feeling within the map is forgettable at best, downright ugly at worst, and not in a fun way like the aforementioned Favela, or even maps like Rust, which are designed to be aesthetically unappealing on purpose. In the end, you're more likely to be frustrated by your limitations with this match based on which role you choose, rather than accepting the balance of things as mentioned earlier, and for that reason it falls to number 9 on this list. Number 8. Riot. I know, I can hear you typing already. Institution maps are always fun when it comes to multiplayer action. The early Call of Duty games gave us military bases, airports, prisons, and later games saw us maneuver into things like hotels, arenas, and exhibition halls. With Riot, the only reason it falls this low on the list is that it's a very poorly designed map. When you take the fun of the prison aesthetic away, you're left with 3 running corridors connecting 2 distractingly open spaces at each end of the map. The middle corridor, the part of the map actually running through the prison, is designed in a way that it's nearly impossible to defend or stake claim to. It's essentially another central chamber map, but unlike the other 3 we've already mentioned, there's no possible way to defend the space given the spiderweb of exits leading from the hall. And in terms of the prison aesthetic, there's so much wasted potential in terms of what we could have had for game space. Sure, we have access to the prison and the front office, but what if we could have had secret passages between the cells? What about access to a raised watchtower, which leads me to another point. This map is way too flat. Yes, the map has 2 levels, but nearly every point of access to the second level is impossible to spot from below, and vice versa. Riot lacks any of the 3-dimensional charm it could have had given its limited layout, which is a shame, because the idea for this map is so much better than its delivery provides. For the sake of its atmosphere, I can't put Riot any lower, but as a map itself, Riot really doesn't deserve higher than 8th. Number 7. Recovery. As I mentioned earlier, the shifting map concept introduced with Advanced Warfare, and nowhere does the game do this better than with Recovery. In fact, Recovery isn't just a shifting map, it's 2 maps in one. Set in Hawaii, the first half of the match sees gameplay limited to a sizable set of buildings serving as a research base overlooking a volcanic caldera. Halfway through the match, the volcano begins to erupt, leading to a series of blast doors opening and allowing access to the second half of the map, which eventually close, and limit the action to that half for the remainder of the match. Both sides have their advantages, though in my opinion the first half provides much more fun in terms of its gameplay. The urban tropical aesthetic combined with the active research equipment provides a fun atmosphere around the action, and the design of the map allows for mostly quick-paced play, with the addition of a few solid camping and hiding spots to protect kill streaks. Once the map shifts to the second half, the design suffers slightly from what comes across as a misuse of 3 dimensions. The blueprint of the map is incredibly flat, so to combat this, the game developers created access to a ground level below the research floor, although this has no competitive advantage with the rest of the map, and feels rather tacked on and boring in the overall pace of the gameplay. For the sake of its originality, the 2-half design propels this map to the middle of our list, and even if it was just the first half, would probably rank this higher, but it's the laziness in the design of the second half that drags it down for my personal tastes. Number 6. Instinct. Another jungle-based map, this is another that suffers in a few key aspects of its 3-dimensionality, simply because an entire half of the map is virtually one giant staircase. Beyond that, this map is big enough to allow for all different types of gameplay. From both the bottom and top of the temple structure, snipers are able to control access to the area while protecting their space from most sides of attack, while the more steep and compact corridors around the outside allow for quick combat action. And the interior of the mine, elements of which appear in other maps like Azure Cave, provide a curving open space for mid-range warfare while still feeling tight and compact in their shape. In addition to the all-around gameplay, Instinct is one of the more memorable maps in the game due to its setting and aesthetic. Combining the ancient grittiness of Central American ruins with modern lived-in qualities due to the mine, having a single map set smack in the middle of the jungle elevates this map beyond the otherwise limiting qualities half of the map suffers from sacrifice of better sniper warfare. Were the shape of the map better, I could probably rank this one higher, though given everything it has going for it, its placement on this list really only comes from me liking the other maps more. Number 5. Biolab. One you might be surprised to see so high on this list, especially given that I tend to dislike snowy maps. Biolab is everything I dislike about Horizon and Ascend done in the right way. Something about active research facilities makes them feel more alive and present, and with Biolab, the presence of chemical production and active conveyor belts provide a sense of movement not really seen anywhere else in the Call of Duty franchise. Whereas other games allow you to shoot cars and oxygen tanks as explosive weaponry, Biolab allows you to use the in-game chemical containers as biological tactics against your opponents, and the conveyor system creates a new way to move around the map in a 3-dimensional way, essentially giving the map a third level over its remaining upper and lower levels. The interior of the map is cramped and crowded, providing a good space for hand-to-hand combat, while external corridors allow players to move around the map and engage in medium to long-range combat, some of which is elevated by the aforementioned conveyor system, or temporary building structures which provide that upper level to the action. This is another of those shifting maps, with a large open space playing host to a temporary housing structure, which only appears in the second half of the match. This closes up a rather empty gap in the map and shrinks that side's combat to more short-range style, but still keeps enough space open to allow for sniping and scouting from the building's upper levels. All in all, this is a fun map with a lot of fun action, which is why it places so high on the list. Number 4. Retreat. Everything here and above is what I would qualify as a great map. Taking the aesthetic of an Asian spa retreat, this map is one of the most intricately designed in the game, providing several memorable rooms and sectors that each brings its own charm to the overall gameplay, notable for the fact that this is otherwise a small map. Taking advantage of its 3 dimensions, Retreat centers most of its action around 2 sides of the central building, one with a flatland pool area, and the other with an open courtyard surrounded by high vantage points, creating several excellent sniping lanes while still providing enough cover for ground-based players to maneuver their way to safety. Each of the different areas of the map feels well designed and lived in, even if the overall feel of the resort itself is somewhat eerie and dystopian. Action also piles over into a cave system at one end of the map, or more prominently, 2 lobbies which flank the central building, creating 2 more of those central chambers which really don't serve as central chambers at all, given their clever accessibility. If anything, the atmosphere of this map elevates it well beyond its actual gameplay, but given its combination, Retreat is propelled to the upper tier of Call of Duty maps, rather than the lower. Number 3. Solar. Full disclosure, Solar is my personal favorite map on the game. However, based on the way I described some of my issues with the lowest members of this list, I don't think I can place it any higher than 3. For one, Solar, despite its numerous accolades which we'll get to in a moment, is almost too clean. The design of this map takes the concept of industrial futurism like we see in Biolab and Instinct, but lacks a lot of the grittiness that makes those maps feel authentic. In other words, it's like whoever was working here just took the afternoon off and let a group of soldiers play war, instead of feeling like a grounded space with real purpose in the conflict. Beyond that, Solar may have objectively the best gameplay of any map in this game. Another 3-corridor design is most prominent in Call of Duty. So much is done with the side passages, the elevation changes, and the obstacles that each kind of player has something to do and thrive at so long as they understand the map's benefits to their style of choice. In rare form for Call of Duty, the best sniping spots are actually on the ground in this map. And given the jumping mechanics of Advanced Warfare, the upper balconies almost prefer hand-to-hand combat. If I had to choose a map to sit down and play continuously, I would choose Solar, because despite its slight shortcomings in design, your best matches and standout moments are most likely to come at this map. Number 2. Green Band. Another map that is unbelievably crafted. Green Band is everything fans wished High Rise could have been rolled up in a futuristic package. A quintessential sniping map, the interior of this map's open space is so well designed, each corridor provides its own unique type of combat. With the central maze garden playing host to excellent ambush and hand-to-hand warfare, the cherry garden adding a vertical dimension that accelerates the mid-range style, and the less popular rock garden miniaturizing the sniping aspect already present between the 2 elevated towers on each end of the map. And as well designed as the interior of this map is, extra props must be given for the design of both end towers, which could not feel more distinct. At one end, a hotel lobby and restaurant provide enough obstacles to protect a set of sniping posts, while keeping enough action within to allow for even more vertical action. At the other end, one of those futuristic Halo-style designs exists around a central aquarium, leading to a raised rotunda which provides the best overall view of the map itself. While virtually everything about this map is perfect, my one criticism comes in the overall openness of the center of the map, as even with the obstacles in the different raised and lowered sections, it does at times feel like the map is too spread out and empty. But nearly everything else about Green Band makes it one of the best maps in the entire series, leaving only one map in this game superior to it for a very few niche reasons. Number 1. Terrace. It was hard to find any reason to take this off the top spot. Terrace is one of those special maps where the design execution completely matches the expectation of the concept. If you've ever been to Santorini, or the Mediterranean in general, you can see how much effort was made by the game designers in making this map feel as authentic as possible, right down to its color palette and use of non-traditional lighting. Terrace shakes up the 3-corridor map design by not committing to open end zones, crisscrossing 2 of those corridors with an open elevation change, inserting hidden corridors and staircases to sneak between different sections of the map more quickly than usual, and most importantly, moving the map's center of action to the side of the map, rather than in the middle. Incredible aesthetics aside, the chaos of this map's pacing is to its benefit. If you don't know the map, the design keeps you on your toes, but with enough experience, you can find the parts of the map which benefit your individual playstyle and use them to your advantage when luring unsuspecting opponents to your space. Like Retreat, there's something about a spa-turned-war zone that just works in this game. With so many different, extremely detailed sectors of the map providing not just looks, but functionality in the gameplay to spice up the action in a new way. Sure, maybe I'll have more fun at some other maps in the game, but Terrace is undoubtedly memorable. Well designed and gorgeous to look at, Terrace takes the top spot on our list. What's your favorite map in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare? Let me know in the comments section below, as well as sharing which game you'd like to see maps ranked for next. Otherwise, check out all of our non-Call of Duty related content, and if you see something you like, make sure to click the thumbs up and stay notified for future videos. A huge shout out to my top tier channel members and patrons, John Buck, Donald Easter, Dalton Bailey, Lydia Bryant, Joseph Morrill, Zhukov Crawford, Set, Sneavatics, Brandon Doty, Mr. Taper, Rockin' Ryan 99, X-Ray, Rania, Katie Rose, Nickerdoodles, Hessa, Srinija Srinivasan, Suzanne William James, Dan, and Jared Parnell. If you'd like to support what I do, feel free to join the channel membership for videos out a week in advance of the channel, or head on over to patreon.com/echoworm, that's worm spelled with an I, and pledge what you might be able to. Otherwise, we'll hope to see you back in the channel very, very soon.